INEC fixes February 20th, 2027 for presidential election. Court orders investigation of Interior Minister Tunji Ojo's academic qualifications. Prayers, tributes, honor late Murtala Muhammad's legacy. On the foreign scene, Senegal varsity shuts campus after deadly protest. Hello and welcome to News Hour on Trust TV. I am Maimuna Bagudo, and now we begin with national matters. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has confirmed that the 2027 presidential and National Assembly elections will be held on February 20th, 2027. The governorship and state houses of assembly elections are scheduled for March 6, 2027. This announcement was made by INEC Chairman Joash Amopitan during a press conference in Abuja. The news comes amid growing concerns over the delayed passage of the amended Electoral Act, currently before the National Assembly. Now, despite these legislative delays, INEC has assured the public that it has completed the election timetable and schedule of activities. However, it is important to note that some items in the schedule could be affected depending on when the amended Electoral Act is eventually passed.
That the election must take place, so that is why the election had to come as off-sample elections. You know, there were a lot of judicial processes involved, election petition tribunals, some documents were removed, and then those that eventually got on the ballots, they now have to start their tenure afresh. So it's for that reason that we cannot have the same time, election at the same time in those states that I involved. Thank you very much.
Now, joining us via Zoom to discuss on the election matters is Public Affairs Analyst Jide Ojo. Good evening and thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Maimuna. How are you today?
Very well. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, let's start with...
Happy Valentine's in advance.
Thank you. So let's start with the report that came out today concerning the elections for 2027. Now, the date has been fixed, and INEC said that these elections will be carried out in February 2027. So what do you think? Are they trying to... mount more pressure on the National Assembly, or do you think that INEC is confident enough to carry out these elections for 2027, being that we have seen that the Electoral Act is yet to be passed?
Well, Maimuna, the truth is that INEC has to do what it has to do. It's not every electoral cycle you have amended laws in place. I have been on this stuff for over 20 years. I've been observing elections in Nigeria since 1999. And I can tell you for free that the 1999 elections was even held without an electoral act. We had the first electoral act in 2001. We had another one in 2002. Then we didn't have an electoral act in 2000. We had one in 2006. We had one in 2010. And then we had amended one in 2015 before we now have the 2022 Electoral Act. So when an act is not amended, it means that that is the law to be used to conduct the next election. So it is for the National Assembly to play catch-up because they had the time. And let me put this out there. INEC since 2019 had put out the date for the election for the next 35 years, up to 2055. It's there in the public domain. If you do a Google search, you'll see the potential dates that have been published for 35 years. INEC has rolled out the date way back in 2019, when 2019 election will be conducted, that of 2023, that of 2027, down to 2055. It's just that what will happen is the shift, as we have seen. In 2019, there was a shift by a week or two. Then in 2023, there was a shift by 1 week. So you can have a shift, but INEC has done what it has to do, trying to give certitude and certainty to the date for the election. So it is just the National Assembly that have delayed itself, but INEC has gone ahead to do what is constitutionally expected it to do.
So, Mr. Jide Ojo, do you think that the delay in passing the Electoral Act is just, normal legislative slowdown, or could there be any political interest behind it?
Yeah, you are putting me on the spot, but I would say that there's element of mischief in what's playing out. This is why I said it. In 2022, this was the same scenario that played out, where there was a delay in the conclusion of electoral reform, and by the time President Muhammadu Buhari now signed that into law, INEC had to shift the date of election by 1 week. It was initially scheduled for February 18, but it was shifted to February 25 because the National Assembly did not conclude work on it on time. So that, and I know that about 25% of senators and similarly House of Reps members were there in the 29th Assembly. They should have known that INEC is duty bound to announce date of election in February, because there is a section 28 of the Electoral Act, which says that the date for the next general election must be given not later than 360 days to the next election. So why did National Assembly, why were they filibustering? Why were they slowing down the process? They inaugurated the Senate and House of Reps Committee on Electoral Matter since June, July 2023. So they should have known when they set up this committee to do electoral reform, which they did in February 2024. They should have given themselves a timeline that will make sure that all constitutional and electoral acts reform ends by latest by December 2025. But they missed that opportunity, and I want to believe that there is an element of mischief in why they did.
But what if the law is passed late and, it introduces new rules? How could that affect political parties as they prepare for their primaries and also their campaigns?
As you read in that report, you said INEC chairman has already given a caveat that some of these dates are not sacrosanct and they can change based on when and if a new electoral act is in place. The reason why INEC had to actually go ahead to publish this date is because what if the National Assembly concludes work on the Electoral Act amendment and sent to the president, and the president withhold assent, which is a possibility. President Muhammadu Buhari withheld assent on 5 different occasions before he now signed on the 6th attempt. So the whole of 2018, all the Electoral Act amendment that was presented to President Bola and President Muhammadu Buhari, he vetoed them. He vetoed, he withheld assent on those 4 occasions. Then in 2022, he also withheld assent on 1 occasion before he eventually now signed on the 6th attempt. So why INEC had to go ahead as it has done now is that the National Assembly is just one phase of electoral reform. The bigger challenge lies with if the president will find it expedient and comfortable with to sign, and if he refuses to sign, that means the electoral acts will go back to the National Assembly for more legislative work. So in all of that, there must be nature abhors vacuum, because even constitution has strong INEC on the dates that certain elections have to be held. And this was cited even in the timeline and schedule of activities that were held today, that elections to some offices have to be held not later than 150 days to the exit of to the end of tenure of the current occupier. So all of these are constitutionally bound and also bound by the Electoral Act. So you cannot be waiting on the National Assembly and the president when you don't know what the mind of the president will be when it eventually receives this piece of legislation, whether it will sign, whether it will withhold assent.
All right. Looking ahead, do you expect any legal battles or political tension if there is no conflict between INEC's schedule and the final version of the amended law? Excuse me.
Well, I wouldn't say there is a looming legal battle. Those who may be very uncomfortable are the political parties and their aspirants. And it has happened before. Let me put it out there, Maimuna. It has happened before that political parties have taken the National Assembly to court and got certain sections of the Electoral 2006 expunged. You understand? The court can expunge any part of the electoral law or any part of any legislation. So that a piece of legislation was signed into law today does not mean that it will automatically take effect. There could be litigations. If some of the political gladiators feel that certain sections of the Electoral Act does not warrant a level playing field, they can go to court, and if the court finds merit in what they have brought before it, it will give judgment appropriately. So, but on INEC itself, I don't think there should be any fear of litigation. What can also happen is if the President Bola Tinubu delays beyond his constitutionally guaranteed time, which is 30 days, the Constitution has given the President 30 days window within which to sign a piece of legislation or to withhold assent. And in withholding assent, he must advance reasons why he's withholding assent. So if those due processes are not followed, there could be litigations by certain interest groups, whether civil society or the political parties or the aspirants.
All right. Thank you, Public Affairs Analyst Jide Ojo, for speaking with us tonight.
It's my pleasure. Do enjoy your weekend. Happy Valentine's in advance.
And you too. Thank you. Now, moving on, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is expected in Kano on Monday to formally receive Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf into the All Progressive Congress, APC, at a grand reception scheduled to hold at the Sani Abacha Stadium. Now, Kashim Shettima and several APC governors are also expected at the event, which party leaders describe as a major political gathering aimed at consolidating the party's influence in the Northwest. Kano State APC Chairman Abdullahi Abbas said the reception will formally welcome Governor Yusuf into the ruling party, describing the development as a significant milestone for the APC in Kano, one of Nigeria's key political strongholds. Abbas added that extensive preparations have been concluded to ensure a hitch-free ceremony with committees set up to coordinate security, logistics, and mobilization. He disclosed that a 15-member security committee chaired by Colonel Umar Malami with the Director General of Special Services as secretary will oversee security arrangements for the event. Now, the Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja has reserved judgment in 9 appeals arising from the leadership crisis within the People's Democratic Party. A 3-member panel fixed no date, saying parties will be notified after lawyers adopted their briefs and made final submissions. The disputes stem from earlier rulings of the Federal High Court in the EFCC.
It's been quite a long day, but
Joyce Abdulmalik and Peter Lifu. The rival camps are led by claimant chairman Tani Muturaki and caretaker committee head Abdurrahman.
Yes, thank you. So we hope to see on top.
But for those who understood what the court had done, will appreciate the colossal sacrifice that the justices have done to ensure that justice is done in all the matters that were presented before the court. Now, all appeals have been taken, argued by both sides, and then judgments reserved. As soon as the judgments are ready, the court will summon us to come and hear what the verdicts are. But I have always said and maintained that it's very important for our judges to understand that any attempt to bring politics into our courts or to take our courts into the political arena will spell doom for democracy.
I also want to commend our own lawyers. They have shown what law is all about. They have spoken law, and I believe that we expect good judgment. And that whatever happens, what is important is that PDP must be together. Our job on this side, those of us who have been here, our interest is to rebuild our party, to make sure our party is united. It's not about grandstanding. If the judgment comes in our favor, we won nobody. PDP has won. The PDP faithfuls have also won. So we believe and ask God to make sure that this peace that is coming to PDP now will be sustained.
Now, former governor of Kaduna State, Nasser El-Rufai, received a warm reception in Kaduna on Friday as thousands of supporters flooded the streets following his return to the city after Thursday's airport incident. Footage circulating online showed jubilant crowds surrounding El-Rufai's convoy en route to Juma'at Mosque, cheering and waving in support of the former governor. Observers noted the unprecedented turnout, underscoring his continued influence and popularity across the state. The visit comes amid heightened political attention in Kaduna, with El-Rufai's supporters demonstrating strong solidarity and enthusiasm for his presence in the state. Now, 11 months after hunters from Kano State were killed in Urami, grieving families are still waiting for the compensation they were promised. They say their pain has deepened as pledges from both the Kano and Edo State government remained unfulfilled. Abdul Aziz Ibrahim visited the community where the voices of a survivor and the families of the slain echo a call for justice.
7 of the victims who were from Torankawa village in Kano State did not return home alive. During a condolence visit, Edo State Governor Monday Okpebolo pledged compensation to the families. But nearly 1 year later, relatives say no compensation has been paid. The mother of Abdullahi Harisu says the pain of losing her son has been worsened by broken promises. She says support from the government would have helped her care for those left behind. Widows of the slain hunters describe their husbands as their only breadwinners. Life, they say, has become unbearable since their deaths.
We're in hardship because he was the one providing for us, but now he's gone. We appeal to the authorities to consider our situation and give us our rights. It has been 11 months since he was killed, and life has become very difficult. Since his death, I've not been well because he did everything for us. We appeal that some of these responsibilities be eased for us. We have heard nothing about the compensation.
As the families plead for justice and support, the village head of Torankawa, Ali Ado, says the community has tried to assist, but he admits the families are still in dire need. The families of those killed are facing severe hardship. Their dependents, especially the orphans, are now at the mercy of the community. This would not have been the case if the promises made to them had been fulfilled. The support that came from other well-meaning Nigerians were handed over to the families by me, but the compensation promise has not been forthcoming. Following the March 2025 incident, the Edo State government promised both compensation and justice, but the only survivor, Ibrahim Isa, says neither has been delivered. We want the governors of Kano and Edo to fulfill their promise to support the education of the children. They remain silent, and the compensation they pledged has not been paid. We appeal to them to act. Ibrahim Isa says the months since the attack have been filled with trauma and misery. He says the families have now resolved to take further action.
We have
set February 21 to stage a protest in Abuja and then return to Kano. We have informed the relevant authorities because it is almost 1 year. 11 months on, grief deepens as promises fade. For the families of the victims of the Urami killings, the wait for justice and compensation continues. Abdulaziz Ibrahim, Trust TV News, Kano.
Now, tragedy struck in Kaduna State as a divisional police officer attached to Urami division was fatally shot while responding to a distress call over suspected bandits herding stolen livestock. The incident occurred in Yanunku village, Charenchi local government area, following reports of armed men moving through Majangobir and Magabe villages. According to DSP Sadiq Aliyu, the DPO mobilized police and military operatives successfully intercepting the bandits and recovering all stolen animals. 3 suspected armed bandits were neutralized in a gun battle, while another officer sustained injuries and is now receiving treatment. The chairman of Urami local government area, Muhammad Ali, described the officer's death as a painful loss to both the police force and the community, praising his bravery and dedication. Residents expressed grief over the loss, calling for increased security presence to prevent further attacks, while authorities continue efforts to track remaining suspects. Now, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps in Niger State has arrested the village head of Zunzungi community in Kacha local government area and 33 others over an attack on joint security operatives at a mining site. The attack, which occurred on February 11, led to the killing of a police constable and the burning of an NSCDC patrol van at a site operated by Millennium Metal Mining Company. NSCDC Niger State Commander Superu Siaka Aniveye said some suspects were arrested while planning a second attack, while others, including the village head, were picked up during a meeting in the community. He added that the suspects, believed to be illegal miners, attacked operatives with dangerous weapons and attempted to seize their rifles. The Corps said another arrested The Corps said those arrested are in custody and will be prosecuted. Now, the defense headquarters on Friday reported that troops killed scores of terrorists, arrested 42 suspects and rescued 43 kidnapped victims across multiple regions between February 9th and 13, 2026. Major General Michael Onoja provided updates, said that in the northeast, 8 terrorists were arrested and 11 hostages rescued, while in the northwest, 4 terrorists were captured, 2 victims rescued and arms recovered. In the north central, 6 terrorists, including a wanted suspect, Kamaru Chawe, were arrested and 26 hostages freed. Troops also captured the notorious Batijo's camp in Kogi State, seizing arms and rescuing additional victims. In the south, 5 terrorists, including a wanted Eze Adire, were arrested and 4 victims rescued. In the southeast, 8 terrorists were detained and weapons recovered. Now, the Federal High Court in Abuja has granted an application by activist Emorioloye Owolemi seeking permission to inquire into the academic qualifications of the Minister of Interior Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo. Justice Binta Iyanko gave the approval while ruling on an ex parte application filed by the activist. The court granted leave for an inquiry into the secondary school certificate allegedly issued to the minister by the West African Examinations Council, following claims of discrepancies of his academic records. However, in a related development, Justice Joyce Abdulmalik of the Federal High Court in Abuja declined a similar request by the activist to probe the minister's discharge certificate issued by the National Youth Service Corps. Now, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has arrested 3 suspects in Maiduguri, Borno State over the alleged abuse of the Naira after a viral video showed them using a 500 Naira note to clean mucus from their noses. EFCC spokesperson Dele Oyewale said the video triggered investigations that led to the arrest of Adam Muhammad, Mohammed and Bashir Musa. The suspects are currently in custody at the EFCC Maiduguri office and will be charged to court after investigations. The commission says the action is part of its renewed clampdown on Naira abuse and defacement, following recent similar arrests, including that of Kannywood actor Saminu Inuwa, as it seeks to protect the dignity of Nigeria's currency. Now, as tuition fees continue to rise across tertiary institutions as well as secondary and primary schools in the country, millions of students are being forced out of the classroom. With the current economic situation, many families say they are struggling to feed themselves, forcing educational dreams to be delayed and dimming hope for the future generation. In Lagos, parents and students are calling on the federal government to do more to reduce tuition, accommodation and book costs. Victoria Tokolo reports.
Rising tuition fees and the increasing cost of living have forced millions of Nigerian students to drop out of school, according to recent reports highlighting the growing crisis in access to education. Tuition that was once considered affordable has surged significantly, while everyday expenses for students have multiplied, placing immense financial pressure on families nationwide. In response, the federal government introduced the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NEL Fund, which has covered school fees for more than 1 million students, providing relief for families and helping to sustain access to education. However, many parents in Lagos say more intervention is needed to ease the burden of rising costs and ensure their children remain in school.
Government has been doing some, especially this particular regime, as in tinubu regime, because this policy that he has introduced has helped many students in paying education fee. The current situation of Nigeria as well has made parents not to be able to afford the price of education.
Like this NEL fund that is initiated by our president, all thanks to him, I think it should make it easy for students, especially at the tertiary level, to be able to access the fund. If they can access the fund, then the money that their parents is supposed to be using in that can be used in settling other children, like those in the secondary school or paying house rent, so that life will be easier. It affects the ability of parents. You can see that during the time we are, like me, like a parent now, during the time I went to school, I can remember that my school fees that time it was 5 naira. I still have the receipt. But now, look at how much they are paying now. Their school fees they are paying, at least for primary, they are paying, is it not 150,000 naira? And this thing is affecting parents.
Students also expressed concern that despite the NEL Fund initiative, accommodation and book costs remains high and largely unaffordable.
The government should help the school fee. It should reduce the payment of the school, help the school out and sort out the books. Some of the books that are like textbooks and some stuff like that.
About school fees, it's affecting us a lot. And we plead our government to do something about it. Because most of our parents are not that rich. They are hustling to pay the school fees. And calling our parents today, tomorrow, because of school fees, even is causing a lot of problem at home. Because it's not easy to get the money. And there is no money anywhere.
Accommodation issue and everything. You know, that's all I would just say to the government. They should please And please, because of our future, they should look into it for us. It's not every other parent that has that money, and everybody needs to go to school. Likewise, we have, and because of the future. So I can just say like that we should please look into it for us.
As tuition fees continues to climb, millions of students across the country risk being pushed out of the classroom, raising serious concerns about equitable access to education and the nation's future workforce. Stakeholders say there is an urgent need for stronger government action to address the broader economic challenges affecting young people who represent the country's future.
Nigeria marks a solemn milestone, 50 years since the assassination of General Murtala Muhammad. Though his rule lasted barely 200 days, his courage, integrity and patriotism left a lasting imprint on the nation's conscience. Across Kano, his home state, prayers and tributes honor his memory. At the mosque built beside his tomb, worshippers reflect on his enduring legacy of justice, faith, and service. This report captures how remembrance rekindles reflection on a leader who embodied fairness, fear of God, and devotion to Nigeria.
Nigeria pauses today, 50 years since General Murtala Muhammad's assassination. He ruled the country from July 1975 until February 13, 1976, before his life was cut short on his way to a mosque. The Murtala Muhammad Mosque was built beside his tomb jointly by the federal government and philanthropists, so worshippers could constantly pray for him. Family members, clerics and dignitaries gathered for solemn prayers in his honor. Supplications were offered for the repose of his soul, echoing his enduring legacy.
Late General Murtala Muhammad stood for certain things. He stood for anti-corruption. He stood for integrity. He stood for honesty. He stood for fairness. He stood for justice, for equity.
Former Foreign Affairs Minister Aminu Bashir Wali described him as a leader devoted to Nigeria's progress.
Well, Nigeria has missed so far. No other leader emerged that I can even compare him anywhere near what Murtala represents in terms of his commitment to this country and commitment to making sure that everybody lives according to what he can afford.
Researcher Ibrahim Adokurawa noted his lasting impact despite only 200 days in office.
He ensured that the federal capital moved from Lagos to Abuja. And then the most important, the presidential constitution of Nigeria, which we are operating now, is one of his legacies. And his African foreign policy, which was Africa-centered, that ensured the independence of Namibia and subsequently even the dismantling of apartheid, because Africa was the centerpiece of his foreign policy.
Away from the mosque, his family holds this remembrance as deeply personal and sacred. His sister Balara Baramat Yakubu recalled their shared lineage and clarified misconceptions about his ancestry, affirming his Kano royal and clerical roots.
Tana cewa shi daga Ido yazo, wancan ya ce daga ina yazo, to shine muke so mu nuna mutanen Murtala daga Kano.
There are many misconceptions and misrepresentations about his ancestry, particularly the claim that he was from Edo State. That is not true. None of Murtala's parents was from Edo. They were both from Kano. Murtala came from distinguished royal and clerical families in Kano. He was a principled man who never tolerated laziness or treated responsibility lightly. These values shaped the way he governed Nigeria. He had integrity. He was patriotic.
She recounted how the name Ramat, their mother's name, became part of his identity and how his assassination plunged the family into grief.
Wata masifa da za ta samu ɗan adam ya ji kamar dama a ce shi ne ya tafi. To duk family ɗin Murtala tsakanin ma iyalinsa wanda ya haifa da mu ƙannansa da ƴan uwansa da an shiga har musulmi ma wanda ba ƴan Najeriya ba.
The day he was assassinated, his entire family, both immediate and extended, was thrown into unimaginable grief. Friends, relatives, and well-wishers across the world mourned him. After his death, numerous places and structures were named in his honor, including Nigeria's largest airport in Lagos, as well as institutions, government buildings, and roads. Many people also named their children after him or after our mother, Ramat. I do not know when he chose to add our mother's name to his. He never told me. But as we grew older, we realized it was our mother's name as well, and we began using it too.
50 years on, residents at monuments bearing his name still speak of his courage, fairness, and vision.
History will never forget him as one of the finest head of states Nigeria has ever had. He's a good man, actually. His legacies will live forever. He fought for the unity of Nigeria, and I think he will be forever remembered for that.
Nigeria remembers General Murtala Muhammad as a beacon of integrity, patriotism, and hope. His life reminds younger generations that leadership is a trust, and only justice and service will define how history remembers a leader.
Nigeria has secured a permanent seat on the board of the African Central Bank after a decision by the Executive Council of the African Union. Foreign Affairs Minister Yusuf Maitama Togari described the development as a major diplomatic win, saying it reflects Nigeria's influence in shaping Africa's financial and economic architecture. He added that Nigeria will also be represented on the board of the Technical Convergence Committee of the African Monetary Institute, seen as a foundation to the African Central Bank. The decision was among Nigeria's key gains at the 39th AU Executive Council session, alongside progress on peace, security, and democratic governance across the continent. Now, at least 15 people have died and 49 others infected with Lassa fever in parts of Taraba State. The acting head of clinical services at Federal Medical Center Jalingo, Suleiman Kirimi, said many patients arrived late at hospitals, contributing to the rising death toll. He disclosed that dozens of patients are currently on admission, while others have been treated and discharged. Health officials describe the outbreak as the most widespread in Taraba in over a decade, blaming late presentation, self-medication, and misinformation for worsening outcomes. The hospital is working with the Taraba State government and the Nigerian Center for Disease Control to boost surveillance and response. Public health experts urged residents to maintain hygiene, store food safely, avoid contact with rodents, and report symptoms early to health facilities. And now to Jigawa State, where the state has joined the world to mark the 2026 International Day of Education, with a focus on empowering young people to play an active role in shaping the future of the education sector. The event held in Dutse brought together key stakeholders, students, and development partners. Trust TV's Ali Rabiu Ali reports.
Instruction. Regulators reach Chinese speaking by creating book and making rules.
This year's International Day of Education comes at a time when global attention is shifting towards youth participation in education, planning, and reforms. At Dr. Nuhu Sunusi Model Secondary School in Dutse, the Jigawa State Ministry of Basic Education, in collaboration with the Jigawa Education Accountability Forum and the Partnership for Learning for All in Nigeria, convened stakeholders to reflect on this year's theme, the power of youth in co-creating education. The chairman of the State Universal Basic Education Board, Professor Haruna Musa, emphasized that empowering young people to take part in the decision-making processes strengthens transparency and improves service delivery across schools in the state.
Whatever they are doing, we are preparing them for the 21st century, challenges as well as opportunities that are available. And this is what we are really looking for. We sincerely thank the organizers for gathering people here for this kind of occasion, and we hope to see more as time goes on.
Representatives of civil society organizations called for stronger community involvement in education governance.
Okay, assalamu alaikum. I am Nafisa Alera Haruna. I am member Jigawa Education Accountability Forum. And like we know, from the 24th to the 15th of February, is set aside as day for International Day for Education. So we're celebrating this day to commemorate the importance of education to our new generation, our younger generation.
Development partners also reaffirmed their commitment to supporting youth-centered education initiatives in Jigawa State.
Our theme for this year is the power of youth in what? In co-creating education.
The celebration featured quiz competition, drama performances, and goodwill messages, all designed to encourage students to take ownership of their learning. Winners of the competitions expressed appreciation to God and the organizers for creating a platform that inspires learning and creativity.
My name is Paul Luca from SS3C. I attend my school in Dr. Muhammad Senior Secondary School. What I can say about this program, I really appreciate this and so grateful for this occasion that they do, for the students to know that they are not too that dull, for them to know that education is the key in life.
Okay, my name is Gali Musa from SS3 Science class. Okay, yes, I am the part of the members of the drama, but I really appreciate with the drama because of the Ministry of Education come and enjoy the members of the drama.
My name is Amina Muhammad Ibrahim from Dr. Muhammad Sunusi DGSS from SS3A.
Participants described the event as timely, noting that investing in youth leadership is vital for sustainable development and preparing the next generation for the future. The International Day of Education is observed annually to highlight the role of education in peace building, economic growth, and social development. From Jigawa, Ali Rabiu Ali, Trust TV News.
Now, the Adamawa State government has received critical livestock support from the federal government, including tractors and a rehabilitated animal health service center aimed at boosting pastoral farming and improving animal health care across the state. The intervention is part of the Livestock Productivity and Resilience Support Project and the Renewed Hope Livestock Reform Initiative. Gibson Suadigo reports.
The Minister of Livestock Development, accompanied by the Adamawa State delegation, arrived at the Gongoshi Grazing Reserve for a brief handover ceremony. At the reserve, tractors were used to prepare the finger grass plots, while the delegation observed closely. Presenting the tractors, the Minister of Livestock Development said the gesture demonstrates the federal government's commitment to modernizing the livestock sector, providing states with the tools needed to expand grazing infrastructure and mechanize pasture cultivation. The delegation then visited the Mayabilwa local government area to inspect the rehabilitated Animal Health Service Center. The upgraded facility will offer improved veterinary services, disease control, and livestock health management for farmers in the region.
Ultimately, this will translate into healthier herds, higher yields of meat and milk, improved incomes for producers, leading to greater stability in the livestock sector.
This clinic is also located where there is abundant livestock population and movement, especially cattle, sheep, and goat.
The Adamawa State government says these projects will strengthen food security, create economic opportunities for pastoralists, and help reduce farmer-herder conflicts through structured grazing systems.
We have AI centers also, by the Federal Ministry of Livestock through El-Press, AI centers across the 3 central districts, milk collection centers in 3 central districts, and many other cold chain facilities where vaccines can be stored even without national grid.
The project falls under the federal government's Renewed Hope Livestock Reform Initiatives, part of ongoing efforts to reposition Nigeria's livestock industry for sustainable growth. Gibson Soadugo, Trust TV News, Yola.
The Naira recorded its first depreciation against the dollar at the official market this week. Data from the Central Bank of Nigeria showed the currency weakened to 1,353.66 Naira per dollar from 1,348.95 Naira recorded the previous day. That represents a day-on-day drop of 4.71 Naira, nearly wiping out the 5.51 Naira gain posted over the last 3 sessions. However, the story was different at the parallel market, where the Naira appreciated by 5 Naira to trade at about 1,440 Naira per dollar, up from 1,445 Naira following the Apex Bank's latest intervention to bureau the change operators. Meanwhile, Nigeria's foreign debt climbed further to $47.53 billion as of February 10th, according to the bank's figures. Now, away from Nigeria, Senegal's largest university, Sheikh Anta Diop University, has shut its campus and suspended student associations following violent protests over unpaid scholarships. The university, located in Dakar, took the decision after a second-year medical student, Abdullahi Ba, was killed during a police intervention under unclear circumstances. In a statement, UCAD's Academic Council said it was deeply affected by the tragedy and announced the suspension of student groups as a precautionary measure to restore calm and ensure safety on campus. For years, students in Senegal have protested delays in payments, with demonstrations sometimes turning violent. This week's protests escalated into clashes between students and security personnel. For sports updates, let's join Adeni Ajishafe.
30 teams will compete at the 6th annual President Beach Volleyball Tournament, which serve off on Friday in Kaduna, with organizers positioning the event as a strategic platform for selecting players ahead of forthcoming international championship. The tournament will run till 17 February. Beach volleyballers in senior and junior players in both male and female categories drawn across the federation. An avenue to drill senior players being considered to represent Nigeria at Beach Volleyball Championship scheduled for July. Nigeria's female beach volleyball team currently ranked 4th in Africa, while the male team is placed 9th. And still in sport, Paris 2024 Paralympic bronze medalist Eniola Bolaji has qualified for the final 2026 Para-Badminton World Championship in Bahrain after a commanding semi-final victory. Reigning African champion defeated China's Gan Yuan in straight set 21-12, 21-16 women's SL3 at New Capital Indoor Hall. The Nigerian star, in good form, opened a campaign with a dominant 2-0, 21-13, 21-12 win over Australia's Kathleen Dransfield, world number 18. She followed this with a crushing 2-0 win, 21-3, 21-7 victory against Brazil's world number 10 Adrian Avila. In the round of 16, Bolaji beat France Milena Surreal 21-13, 21-12, edged Turkey's world number 5 Halime Yildiz 21-6, 21-9 in quarterfinal. Meanwhile, Nigerian Chigozie Nana delivered a historic performance in men's SL4, securing a bronze medal after semi-final defeat to India's world number 2 Navin Sivakuma. With their podium finishes, Bolaji and Unana have become the first African player to win medals at the Para-Badminton World Championship, a landmark achievement for Nigeria and Africa. Bolaji had earlier edged a name in history as the first African to win a Para-Badminton medal at Paralympic Games, claiming bronze at the 2024 Summer Paralympics. Eniola Bolaji will face Japan's Shino Kawai in the final scheduled for 14 February as she aims to secure her first world title. That's Sport News. I'm Adeni Ajishafe.
With that, we've come to the end of News Hour on Trust TV. Follow us on all of our social media platforms and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more news. I am Maimuna Bagodo. Thanks for watching. Have a good night rest.